thank you for taking this call to discuss Shadow Walk for the Geeks of Doom. Shadow Walk, legendary main man Thomas Tull came up with the concept and outline, correct? And so how did you become involved?
Bob Schreck, who was the editor on it, had reached out to me at San Diego a year and a half ago, because he and I had been looking to do something together. And he pitched me the basic elevator pitch, and I was very interested. And that led to a meeting with Thomas where I did have my shields up. I admit that I had my shields up because I was ready for it to be yet another meeting where some big shot studio head tells me how to write comics, and what he's really trying to do is get a movie made. And so my shields were up, and honestly, like within 5 minutes, it was clear to me that Thomas didn't really care about what medium we were telling him. He just wanted to be told in a medium that made sense. And if it was going to be a graphic novel, make it a really good graphic novel.
Right.
Don't sell it. Don't try to disguise it. Don't disguise a TV pitch as a comic book. And that was what sold me. Was he said, "Look, let the story have its own integrity."
Mm-hmm. To what extent does morality, hope, optimism inform your writing? Is it
everything?
Yeah.
That's a good question, and the answer is in every aspect. I believe that, and I cannot defend this belief as articulately as I would like, and I think I'm reticent to say it, but I'll still say it. I honestly believe that you have certain ethical and moral responsibilities as an artist. They're not necessarily to reflect a moral and ethical stance of the 1950s or of a particular mindset or a particular worldview, but just you have an ethical and moral responsibility to do something with your art and to tell a story that has a voice and has a point of view. And luckily for me, I don't have a very cynical point of view. In fact, I'm not really. I loathe and abhor cynicism because I think it's so easy to write. Anybody can write a cynical story. So the challenge in writing something like Shadow Walk, where there doesn't seem to be a whole lot of hope or virtue in the basic setup, because it's science fiction / horror, is how do you find that element of hope? How do you find that ray of optimism in what is a truly horrific, dark story?
Right.
And the answer really became about using the story as a platform to examine the concept of faith, to examine the concept of you put a group of people together who are marching through the valley, investigating, and they all have faith in different things. Some of them are theologians, some of them are mathematicians, some of them are hard science guys, some of them have no obvious faith in anything at all.
Right.
And you let those people sort of bump up against each other, and the drama that results out of that, the contrast, gives you a real motor for a story.
That's interesting. You touched on what was going to be one of my questions. A scientist's faith in his or her science can be as strong as a priest's faith in a higher being or God. Will we see, and I guess we're going to see this dynamic played out as you've just touched upon with different sort of personalities. The one thing I wonder if, in searching for truth and ultimately spiritual truth, the one thing potentially is that you may not want to find out the answer.
True, actually.
Pardon me?
No, that's true.
Yeah.
There are times when you don't want to find exactly that.
Yeah.
And that is frankly, that is one of the big running threads of the book, is that one of the main characters and the point of view character of the story is an elderly priest, and he's sort of hit a point in his life where he's not entirely sure what the reward for his faith is going to be, and it is constantly and severely questioned throughout the entire story.
Right. Kingdom Come, of course, is legendary, and for its themes and its just impact and sort of undercurrent, the tonality of it. Now we have shadow walk. Are biblical themes something that are important or attractive, if not important, but compelling for you? And if so, why?
I mean, it can be. I mean, it's easy to forget that Kingdom Come was, 16 years ago, 17 years ago. So, to me, it doesn't seem like a well I'm going back to as often as it might seem to other people. But that said, I was born in the Deep South, and we did, big Thursday revival, tent meetings, and, snake handling, and, the big Bible thumping Bible belt that I grew up in. I'm not a religious or spiritual man today, but it's certainly it's certainly hardwired into my DNA.
Right.
And so, what I think one of the reasons that biblical themes appeal to me is sort of being able to go back to these things that were mysterious and eerie and almost frightening as a child,
right,
and to be able to look at them from an adult perspective.
Do you think? So you've mentioned science and religion. Does one need faith in order to survive, or maybe to be more precise, does one need to have a belief in something bigger? What does the faithless person do? The atheist? I guess the question is: faith in oneself, the will to prevail, simply to live. Is that enough? Was that a theme in the book?
That, in fact, is the central question of the book.
Ah.
That, in fact, is the central question of the book. A few years ago, I read a terrific book called The Survivor's Club. And it was a nonfiction book. It was an examination. The writer had become intrigued with this notion of, is there a common thread between the people who survive, the cancer survivors, the survivors of horrible plane crashes, the survivors of devastating natural disasters? What sort of common threads are there in their lives? Is there anything? And the one he kept coming across, and seemed to be universal, was faith in something, whether it's some force above you or whether it's just your own force of will or what have you. But having the ability to have faith in something was the ultimate survival tool. Mm-hmm. So the central question of Shadow Walk then becomes, how does faith manifest itself in all of our players, and how do they define faith? What do they find faith in?
Mm-hmm. Is in Shadow Walk, is the Valley of the Shadow of Death given an exact location, and will this conflict with interpretations of the valley where young David walked?
No, in fact, thanks to Max Brooks and his incredible research and reservoir of knowledge, it ties in directly to where the Valley of the Shadow of Death is, by all theological definitions, most likely located.
Oh, okay.
I mean, what Max did that was amazing was he really did his homework. He dug into ancient mythology. He dug into prehistory. He dug into legends and mythology from all over the world and all cultures, and sort of knitted this together as a backstory for the valley and its existence.
Right.
That gave me a lot of material to draw from.
Right, because the Valley of Shadow of Death is referenced by at least two religions, major religions, and he's managed to combine those interpretations you're saying, which is, I think, fascinating. Is that correct?
Yeah, that's absolutely correct.
Right.
And also, my girlfriend is her doctorate in anthropology.
Oh.
And so she was also a great help in knitting together cultural beliefs over the years and cultural histories.
I'd read that correct. I read that it's perhaps, without spoiling too much, perhaps Iraq or some area of Iraq where this is situated.
Yeah, it actually is set. It is set in what has become Iraq.
Right, that was probably part of the ancient kingdom of Israel many thousands of years ago. Is that correct?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I said the Wells the wellspring of human civilization.
So that's rather interesting, given our recent political troubles in that country, in that area. That
right, and we've made a story out of that. I mean, the fact that is now this incredible hotbed of military unrest and has been for some time becomes a story point we were able to actually walk up to and address.
I have to ask, is Shadow Walk intended to perhaps have a sequel to live beyond this graphic novel, maybe even beyond that in other media, given Legendary's, the fact that they are, a film company as well? Is there any sort of cross?
It could be. I mean, it's certainly a question that's been floated, but the overall attitude was, first off, just make it a really good graphic novel and worry about other media later. And then secondly, if it's well received, if people like the story, if people dig what we're saying, then then maybe there is a possibility for it to live on in other graphic novels or other media. We'll see.
How did comparing the other companies you've worked with? How did you find working with the Legendary crew and their approach, their flexibility and collaborative quality? How was that?
It was incredibly easy and fulfilling to work with them because, again, there was no edict given down at any time. There was no sense that I wasn't a vital part of the process. There wasn't a sense that I was a hired hand or an interchangeable cog.
Right.
Which can be the case for freelancers sometimes in other companies. This is something where I'm clearly I get a chance to make it my story too.
Thank you so much, Mark, for your time.
Thanks for your time and thanks for your interest. I appreciate it. And if there's anything else I can do, you let me know.
Thank you so much, Mark.